Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we've reached 100 subscribers, so thank you all very much. As promised in the video before New Year's, Christmas New Year's time, I thought about it, what to do to celebrate 100 subscribers, and I've chosen to do my top 10 locomotives within my collection. Now, with so many to choose from, let's get started. Okay, so starting off with number 10, it's this lovely thing from Bachmann. Number 62667 Som. She's a Class T11, very elegant, very striking locomotive. I've used her quite a fair bit on local passenger services, some express services, and she's just been a steady performer. Nothing really too special. She's been tightened up a little bit as the remembrance engine for the layout, but other than that, not a lot to say about her. A nice steady locomotive, well suited for the 10th position. Okay, so in number 9 is my Dapple Class 52. Number D1034 Western Dragoon. This is probably my best attempt at weathering on a diesel, and for a diesel she does get a lot of regular usage. A very striking model, very powerful, and I think very deserving of the number 9 spot. One of the unique Class 52s of the western region of BR. So moving on now, we'll move on to number 8. So in 8th position is my Bachmann J11, number 64452. This one started off as a London and North Eastern J11. Can't remember the running number of it. It also had a different style of smokebook start. After a bit of modification and weathering, rebranding into BR condition, real coal being fitted, she's turned out to be a trusty and sturdy member of the team running on the layout, and I just think she looks gorgeous when she's running and performing her duties. She'll be stable in the main line and the branch line, and yeah, I'm very proud of this one. So now moving on swiftly to number 7. Okay, so here in number 7 we have the mixed traffic duo of my Gresley V2s, both made by Bachmann. Number 60834 is the old type with a split chassis. For its age and its mechanism, it runs pretty well. It's quite a hefty hauler, it can pull quite a bit. This one you'll tend to see more on Crimson and Cream passenger stock, teak passenger stock, as well as the Green Arrow express services, the fully fitted freights, the partly fitted freight services. Number 60862, again you'll tend to see her more on the goods services, being a later conditioned double chimneyed locomotive, but she's pretty much got the same body. A few cosmetic differences here from the outside steam pipes, and notably the double chimney. She's a very reliable runner too. Very glad to have her on the fleet, as I am with number 834. Just a pair of cracking, beautiful locomotives that run quite well, and I think worthy of my number 7 spot. So now moving forward, we're going to move to number 6, and then after that we'll head into the top 5. Okay, so here at number 6, and what more can I say? An absolutely beautiful representation of the improved Precedent class. This one, as you can clearly see, is the Locomotion Models one. This is number 790 Hardwick. Resplendent in London and North Western black with Royal Duties white cab roof. She's a beautiful model. The only thing really that let her down for me was you put the power on and she's like a rocket ship. She flies. And the other thing is really having the rubber traction tyres on as standard, as opposed to the alternative set of wheels with metal tyres. I think she loses a little bit there because of that, but other than that, she's a fantastic model. Bit pricey, but she's very elegant and looks gorgeous at the front of some LMS Crimson coaches I've got. Very stunning model, really happy with this one. So now moving on into the top 5, I'll bring you number 5. Okay, so at number 5, there's no prizes for guessing what these two locomotives are. So here we're looking at Hornby's W1 in original and rebuilt form. The original is in a striking colour of battleship grey. Yes, mine did have faults when it arrived, as I showcased in the video when it arrived, but for me it's an elegant looking locomotive. Now I've fixed it, it runs really, really well, and it's just a nice oddity to have. So if I move right away, the BR1, I'm currently in the middle of doing some work to it. I weathered it recently and I wasn't too happy about how I weathered it, so I took the weathering off, but unfortunately it's damaged the lining. I put transfers on to replace the number. I wasn't happy with how the number looked, so I'm in the middle of doing some work to this one. But other than that, where I've messed it up, this locomotive is fantastic. The rebuilt ones I would put a cut above the unrebuilt ones. The unrebuilt ones were a bit flimsy because of these smoke deflectors and the packaging, but that needs to be addressed by Hornby. But these rebuilt ones are truly fantastic. And hopefully, once the Fox transfers arrive to replace where I ruined the tender and around the cab numbers, she'll look just as good as she did before. Then it'll be a rinse off with water, probably before I put the transfers on. A rinse off with water, make sure her body's clean again, and then I will continue to figure out how I'm going to weather her. I'll probably go back to the old approach of using powders rather than airbrush. I think I should have put a bit more practice in. But yeah, so there is number 5. Moving forward to number 4. Okay then, so moving on to number 4 now. And it's my pair of Bachmann 01 stroke 4s, also known as rods, RODs, and if they were in Great Western guys, 3000s. So these are old World War I 280 goods locomotives. The LNER inherited quite a lot of them after the war to improve their goods services, and they were the mainstay up until the 50s and 60s really, being supplemented after the war by WD 280s and also latterly 9Fs. What can I say really? They're two elegant looking locomotives. They run really well. This one here I've weathered, this one here was factory weathered, and I think they just look great. I use this one here, number 635, a lot more than 762. I tend to use 762 when I want to run both of them at the same time, but I just think they look elegant and go together well. Running characteristics are fine, they're not temperamental. They just plod along at their own little steady pace, put a fair whack of wagons behind them, and just look good doing it. So, moving on now, we'll move on to number 3, which is again another multiple choice, and I hope you'll enjoy them. I'll see you in a minute. Okay then, so we're back here with number 3, and this was my multiple choice. I couldn't pick one of them, or one single class. I had to include all 3. And it is the Hornby A2 stroke 2s and the A2 stroke 3. Steady aim, Cock of the North, beautifully weathered by Steve of Neville Grove. Strongly recommend you check him out. Fane of Fife, made dirty by me with rattle cans and powders. So, going along, why have I chosen these 3 to be in the top 3? Steady aim. I think Steve really achieved what I wanted for steady aim. He just absolutely blitzed it out the park. It's a beautiful, beautiful weathering job he done on it, and I've always had a soft spot for the A2-3 anyway. I was going to build a kit of it, but once Hornby said they were releasing theirs, I dropped that and I bought theirs, and it's been fantastic. I need to pick up 3 more now to do Straight Deal, Honeyway and Edward Thompson, and I might get a late condition one and leave it as Suncastle or redo it to Dante. I'm not sure yet. Moving on to the A2s, Fane of Fife. Although the weathering's not up to as high standard of what Steve achieved, I'm very pleased with her. She fits in quite well, and she looks like an A2 too. Towards the end of their life, heavily rusted, heavily dirty, and of course she had the late crests, and the lip chimney, whereas Steady Aim and Cockler North, they have the non-lip chimney, stovepipe is what it's called. And yeah, she's, again, the A2s tend to be a little bit more fussier with the track they run on, but once you do the back-to-backs and you get them sorted and sweet, they're fantastic. They pull a load, they look good on a good 5 or 6 coach express. Hopefully when the Model Railway Group's new layout's done, I'll see her on a little bit more, really see what these locomotives have to offer. So if I move her back, we've probably got the showcase of the A2s now, the one that everybody knows. It's Cockler North. Again, I asked for a light to medium weathering finish on this one from Steve, and he just knocked it out of the park. The only thing really that lets it down in my eyes, and this was no fault of Steve's, this happened after I got it back from Steve, just these nameplates and that little builder's plate there. They arrived after whilst the locomotive was actually with Steve and he was weathering it. But at the end of the day, it's not too bad. They were just put on, they were just cleaned up for it whilst it was in running traffic. As you can see here, Steady Aim had its on before it went out to Steve, and Steve just masterfully weathered them in. So yeah, obviously the fact that these ones are professionally weathered by that one, and they were just oddities that I never expected Hornby to make, so once they were announced, they were pre-ordered, and I think well deserving of my top 3 positions. So now we'll move on to number 2 before some honourable mentions. Okay, so with my number 2 position, it had to be my 9Fs, really did. So the 9F is my favourite class of steam locomotive anyway. It's just a brute. They are fantastic runners. They run pretty well. A bit clanky, some of them, but it helps add to the realism of these old girls. They do clank about a bit. This one here, 92249. This is my favourite of the bunch. This was the first one I got. I've had this one many years. It cost me £100 when I got it, and it just runs faultlessly. They pull they pull like a train. They are really good. Next on the hit list I got was this one, 92189, shortly followed by 92233, which is the one that came with the Pines Express headboard, before finally finishing it up with Evening Star, who wears the Pines Express headboard. So these are in the number 2 position. Not a lot to say about them. They're just good utilitarian goods engines. They do the job they were designed to do, and they look bloody good doing it. So now moving on to some honourable mentions before finally finishing up with number 1. Okay, so kicking us off with the first honourable mention is this Hornby Great Western 2800. The one modelled here is 2814. Between 1948 and I believe it was 1956-57, this locomotive was actually stabled at Taunton, which is where I live. In there, the crew, the driver is Lionel A. Cox, that's my great-grandfather, and his fireman Roger Selleck, who is my uncle. So it's a very family and hometown feel to this locomotive. I have many, and this just pulls many wagons and just looks fantastic doing it as well. It was originally bought from my local Model Railway Club for £100. I repainted it black, gave it its new number, new head code, new smoke box number plate, shed plate and crests, and yeah, she just looks fantastic. Moving on to honourable mention number 2. Sure. Okay, so the penultimate honourable mention is this Hornby B1, number 61032 Stenbock. This is a beautiful locomotive, pulls quite well, runs reliably. Whenever I put it on the track, it's just faultless. It runs and it pulls. Quite commonly seen on goods traffic. It will occasionally be seen on interregional expresses, short local trains, and short expresses, which will then get put to other expresses and then taken on by a bigger locomotive. It's in BR early black, and there's not really a lot more to say other than that. It's just a good engine. Sadly, just missed out on the top 10. Okay, so the final nomination for, or the final honourable mention, sorry, is this, my Thompson 01, number 63 806. I'm very proud of the weathering job I achieved on this one, as well as very impressed with it. Straight out from the box, brand new. It was fantastic. It just ran really well, still does to this day. It's needed very little work. It just performs fantastically. It's a beautiful locomotive, a beautiful runner. It just got picked by the 9Fs in the top 10. So now, moving on to the highly anticipated, and probably the one you wished I'd all got to the point. Moving on to my top pick. Okay, so here we are at the top pick, number 1. And it's my Gresley A3 60097 Humorist. The reason why she's number 1 is because she was the first proper bit of modelling I would consider myself doing. So I added these etched brass smoke deflectors, a double chimney to make her a humorist. I weathered her, put coal in her, did the crew, sorted out the KD to the correct height, adjusted the back-to-backs, did the research into her, replaced the smoke box dart, drilled out the lamps so the head code is interchangeable, and I just went to town on this locomotive, and I feel like she's one of the best that I've produced. I'm very proud of this one. It's a unique feature in amongst LNER locomotives, and I have a good few many of them. And yeah, I'm just really impressed with this one. Every time I put it out on the layout, it gets a smile, and when friends who are into model railways as well come over and they know a thing or two about big Pacifics of the LNER, it always raises a smile, gets a nod of approval. Whenever she goes out to the model railway club, people stop and have a good look at her and are always impressed by her. So she's definitely up there, and I would probably put her, and I have put her, at my number 1 spot. So that's been my top 10 locomotives, and I hope you're happy with them. So like I just mentioned, that's my top 10. Whittling it out of all of these was pretty difficult, and I try not to be too biased with my main perversion here of the eastern region of BR. Try to be as fair and as open as I could be. So yeah, whittling it down to 10 from all this is very difficult to do. There are very many engines in it that deserve a mention, but that's my top 10. I hope you've enjoyed it. Moving forward in the next couple of weeks, as per promised in my New Year's Day or very early in January video, whenever I released it last, there will be an update coming. As you can see, things have progressed down here, so there will be an update on its way. We're looking maybe next week, the week after. There is one on the way, and then we'll be back to regularly fortnightly videos after that. So all that leaves me to say is thank you all very much for 100 subscribers. It is a very pleasant milestone to have reached. Couldn't have done it without you lot, so thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.